Good morning, everyone. It's Saturday, which means it's time for us to talk about stuff that doesn't matter, including the Rings of Power. As you know, every Saturday morning, a group of salty nerds gets together and we like to bitch about certain things that other people accuse us of being ists about. So with me today is my expert panel of nerds, starting with my brother from another mother, Matt Vader 74. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, hey.
Hey.
I've been getting called ist and phobe and all kinds of stuff about this show. It's nuts, but
By the studio that puts out the show, no less.
yeah. When I can wake up between naps enough to actually watch it in 10-minute segments.
I know, right? We're going to talk about
that. Yeah, okay.
Brian from the Popcast is here. How you doing, buddy?
What's happening? Good to see you guys. Remind me to stop working out before our Saturday morning things, because I'm always hitting in here in the last 30 seconds and I'm like sweating, like, let's go. What's up?
Brian, you don't have to pretend like you work out all the time.
No, I'm literally running every Saturday now for 60 minutes trying to lose weight, and it's not a good time to do it. I should do it after the show, but then again, it's like 150 degrees, so.
Well, try being here in Vegas where it's 200 degrees.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
And joining us, another friend of the show, the crabapple critic himself, Sean, the film professor. How you doing, buddy?
All right. Doing great. So I'm enjoying all the new work that's coming with my new promotion as program director. So
congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, and it's going to make you even more crabby than usual.
Yes, it very will.
I texted Sean the other day to ask if he wanted to be on the stream. I was like, "Are you watching the Rings of Power?" He's like, "I can't unsee it." So I instantly knew where he was coming from on the show. And last but not least, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Odin from Odin's Movie Blog. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing just fine. Just put the baby he's a toddler now, but he's crazy. He's almost 2 years old in October. Just put him down for a nap. Excited to talk about, excited is, again, not quite the word for it, because I probably have more excitement talking about the show than actually watching the show, which says a lot about it. So anyway, excited to talk with you all this morning. Thanks for having me on.
That's always the case, Odin. Like, I remember, so you and I met after Last Jedi. You did a couple videos on my articles that I wrote about that movie, and we've been on each other's streams a couple times. And in particular, it's always stuff that we like to talk about but hate to watch, like Captain Marvel, for instance, and stuff like that. So I'm very excited to have you on the show this morning, because it's always a pleasure to have you. And today we are going to be talking about the third episode in the Lord of the Rings of Power. I think I saw someone call it Board of the Rings, which I think is very appropriate for this show. Although I will say that I think that this episode was the best of the three that we've gotten so far. But even that's not saying a whole lot. So I want to go around the panel and just get the temperature of everyone for this particular episode. Vader, what did you think of episode 3 entitled Adar?
It was very pretty. It was very.
This is a pretty show. It is a pretty show.
It was very. It was a feast for my eyeballs. It was very pretty.
Your eyeballs do like to eat, don't
they do. They like to consume lots of pretty computer graphics that cost a lot of money. But my eyes were happy. The rest of my senses were just kind of ready to go to the park or something. So, yeah.
You know, it's a perfect encapsulation of what you just said is the scene where they come up on the bridge of the ship and they're in the ocean, and you can just tell that's all volume. That's all CGI water and all that stuff. It was just a little bit too crisp, a little bit too uniformly lit. But it did look really good, so.
It's a very pretty show.
Yes. Brian from the Popcast, your thoughts on episode 3 entitled Adar?
This was my reaction during the show. Ready?
I think that was all of our reactions. I literally fell asleep 3 different times watching.
I did. You cannot watch this at night, which is primarily when a lot of us work, right? Yeah. And I'm trying to watch it. I knew we were about to do our show that following day, and I'm like, oh, I better watch this so that we can review it. I'm so happy that we ended up not reviewing it, because we had a lot of OBS problems, because by the time we went to go record our show, when we were actually ready to record it, I was only like 75% into it. So I was like, am I gonna have to review this with only seeing like 70% of it because there's not enough time? And I tried to watch it for 4 hours straight. Nothing holds my attention in this show. A few moments that were like sort of cool, and I did like the new-ish character, but overall just very boring. Visually beautiful, like we said, cool, but it's very boring. The whole show is boring so far. And this was probably the best of the 3 episodes. So,
yeah. You know, what's funny is like visuals, no matter how pretty they are, after you see them for the first time, they kind of like they're just there. So like if a show or a movie doesn't have anything beyond nice visuals to make it stand the test of time, it's not really going to hold up all that well upon repeat viewings. Yeah. I know I had to watch this 3 separate times because I kept falling asleep throughout it. So
I want you to know this is exactly how I felt, by the way, about Dune, and everyone told me I was crazy. Exactly what you said is how I felt about Dune.
Well, what's funny is I think that this is actually part of Amazon's master plan to jack up viewing numbers. So like people keep falling asleep and they have to go back and like rewatch the episode.
That's genius.
Odin, what were your thoughts on episode 3?
Well, I think that the funny thing is that we're a lot of us are saying it was the best episode of the 3, which I think is absolutely true. But it's funny because I think that a lot of that's coming from the fact that something actually happened. Like things actually started happening. And so by default, it is the best episode because narratively we actually have some stuff, I guess, to dive into. Not that it's any good, but hey, at least there's some plot going on. But the issue that I really have ultimately with this episode and with the show is these directors just suck. You know, whoever is telling these actors what to do, whether it's the individual directors or whether it's the producers and the showrunners, whether it's obviously the rolling of the R's, which I'm sure y'all talked about a lot already, but it's just I almost feel bad for the actors because I look at these performances and I say, okay, a director saw this and said, yep, that's good. We'll move on here. A director saw Galadriel, and I know I'm not rolling the R's correctly there, but Galadriel riding that horse, doing those emotions, etc., and said, "Yep, that looks good. Oh, let's slow mo that. Yeah, that looks good too." So I just again, that was a moment where some people might have facepalmed. I laughed. I was just laughing that whole sequence because I'm like, they're really doing a slow motion.
Can I add to that? I think that these younger newer directors and showrunners that are coming in, I think that they're genuinely afraid of like offending people, and maybe that's one reason why they keep their mouths shut. When I feel like if I was on that set and I saw that, I'd be like, hey, you know what? We got to redo that. Like, did you see what was going on?
Yeah, we're gonna talk about the slow motion
for their favorite. Their favorite films must have.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say their favorite films must be from like the mid-aughts or something. Like when slow-mo was like really into it. It's like, oh wait, we're going back to that now. I didn't think that was still
this wasn't just slow-mo though. This was like super slow-mo.
Yeah.
And someone who can probably talk a little bit more about that when we get to it in the technical aspect is Sean. Sean, what were your thoughts on episode 3?
Well, to tell you the truth, I started it and I was out in 2 minutes. Honestly, the thing is because from episode 1, I've had no investment, so it's like it
is hard to get it
on the next one, and then you're just kind of like, and then you just tune out, and it's actually I was wrong in my text to you the other day. I have been able to unsee a lot of this thing. I think it's maybe trauma or whatever, but I think I figured out what's going on with this because I've seen this pattern before. I think what they do is the reason why the acting seems so kind of off is because they're playing the edits by ear. That is to say that they'll do they'll shoot a lot of this and then they'll save these different choices they can make in the edit later based on what they think they need to course correct as they go, rather than having one solid story. They'll have, because it seems to me, and I as I said, I have experience with this, where the motivation isn't really clear and it's kind of vague, so it could go either way, and that gives them the freedom to like, okay, we need to swap this out because this episode didn't go this way. And this is one of the reasons why sometimes they get a little bit better. So yeah, I was kind of out with at the opening of this one, and I mean, I'm gonna have to catch up with it, but really I think they're playing things by ear. They're shooting multiple versions of the same episode, and then they're just releasing whatever they think might work the best.
Like a choose your own adventure.
Yes, kind of like that, only not as good. Yeah.
Well, I will say that whether the season's 8 episodes or 10 episodes, technically we're about a third of the way through the season right now, and stuff needs to start picking up because it's getting really hard to get invested in the show. But real quick, we got a super chat we got to get to from Fluffy Panda for $5. Thank you, Fluffy Panda. Due to driving and for safety reasons, I've stayed away from the ranks of power. So I don't fall asleep at the wheel, unlike Cobra Kai Season 5, which I binged. I'm about halfway through Cobra Kai Season 5. God, that's a great show.
I haven't been. It's released already. God, I missed it.
It came out Friday. Right?
Oh wow! Yeah, I must be. Okay,
I still need to watch season 4.
The thing I love about Cobra Kai is that they're able to basically take a beloved property, stay respectful to the source material, and yet still advance the story. Like it's brilliant what they do, and I wish more shows would do that. Like this show in particular. One of the problems with this show is like they don't really respect Tolkien. Like they pretend that they do, but they really don't. And I think that's one of the biggest issues with the fan base is like they're taking a lot of liberties and they're kind of leaving out a lot of the deeper Christian messages and stuff like that. That was very important to Tolkien. And so like it's missing that heart to it that Tolkien brought to his stories, and that Peter Jackson. I saw a great video with Peter Jackson this weekend on Twitter where he was on Charlie Rose and he was being interviewed, and he was like, look, like we basically kept all of our own thoughts and opinions out of these movies because we wanted to be respectful to Tolkien, and we were like, what's Tolkien's message? That's what we're going to put into this film. And that's a huge difference from this series, because in fact I think I even saw someone in the chat ask if the two guys who are the showrunners of this or of the Bad Robot J.J. Abrams school, which they are, but they were more under the Roberto Orsi and Alex Kurtzman tutelage. Like they were kind of like the guys that they were mentoring when they were at Bad Robot. And this was literally their first production that they were ever able to get off the ground. Amazon just gave them $1 billion. And it's like, we're going to surround you with people who know what they're doing for some reason. So it very odd decisions on this. But before we get into the episode itself, one of the interesting things that I've noticed, especially this week, is that Amazon has been going really hard after the fans, calling them racists, sexists, all types of ists if you are critical or don't like the show. And basically all the shills are jumping on this and accusing people who are critical, who have legitimate criticisms, of being racially motivated in their criticisms and stuff like that. So I wanted to get everyone's take on this. Sean, because you didn't watch the whole episode, but you've watched the other 2 episodes and you're probably following the drama, what do you think of this tactic that Hollywood's taking with basically just attacking the fans who don't like things and accusing them of being horrible people?
Well, we've had plenty of practice in dealing with this because they've been doing this for a number of years now. I mean, this is
at least it's 2016. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's just, it's bad form. It's an excuse and I think a lot of these producers, they bring their friends in as writers. They give them jobs as writers, and they have no experience and no connection to the property that they're writing for. And they just throw a bunch of ideas at the wall, and whatever they like to, or, they might want to see is what they use. And it's just bad form. And when it doesn't come off, and they've got to find some excuse to not be wrong. And that's a big problem. But we're getting used to it. I think our skin is getting rather thick now. It's gotten to the point where we don't even care or react anymore.
Yeah, it's almost like studios are preemptively preparing for this stuff. So like the minute they release something, they have a bunch of their allies in the media ready to release articles accusing critical fans of being like terrible people. Odin, What's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tale as old as time, as they say. I mean, at this point, it's a lot of us have these fandoms that have crossover. So we're used to this with, with Star Wars. We're used to it with, for people who kept going through Doctor Who, right? Being called any type of ist and phobe just because of your being critical of the actual material itself or of the actual character, and even maybe stepping back from the forced diversity that might be in some of these properties just by having one negative comment about just something even generic related to it. You have to be one of these alt-right, giants, whatever the name that they're going to throw out there for it is, ultimate, what's the other word that they like to put in with the white supremacist label? The nationalist, right? You're just a white nationalist that just hates any type of diversity. It's like, no, I'm just a human being who's looking at this show and thinking, okay, does this actually make sense within not just the world of Tolkien that I know of, but also does this make sense within its own structure? And if it does make sense, man, oh man, is it doing it very poorly because I have no interest or care for anything that I'm seeing on screen.
Yeah, I think one of the issues with this show, so like the Galadriel character, who's been dubbed Guy Ladriel by Nerdrotics, like she's a very different character from the books, right? Like she's a lot more like masculine. She's a lot more confrontational, and I think that a lot of fans of Lord of the Rings are like, "Where's the Galadriel we know? She's supposed to be wise. She didn't really take part in many of the battles and stuff like that." They're kind of like changing her character going forward. Brian, what did you think of the attack the fans strategy that probably started with Ghostbusters 2016?
Yeah, I'm not sure when it started, but I wish the whole toxic fandom thing. I mean, it's the worst thing that could have ever happened to media because, like, it gives hacks an excuse to purposely make garbage, and then the second they get criticism, they blame it on toxic fandom, right? I find it hilarious that shirt that came out with the Tolkien, the different colored ears. You know what I mean? The different races of ears. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe I can show it to you.
Everyone's welcome here, I think is.
Oh yeah, that the boys did. The guys wearing around. Yeah.
Here.
Yeah,
this one right here. You guys see this on my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. So guys, that was the premiere. They were already wearing this before anything even started. That they were prepared for this.
Yeah.
They were prepared for fans to be pissed and for them to blame it on being an ist. This was already in the works. Like, they had the shirts made and the actors wearing them at the premiere, you guys. Like, come on. This is before the public even saw it. So they were ready with their "you're a racist" criticism the second you're like, hey, this show sort of sucks. It's boring. This character doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry, but this is not the Galadriel that I can't stop saying it now. It's not the
Guy Ladriel.
It's not the Galadriel that it should be. It's not the right character. It doesn't line up with anything in the books or the movies. This character doesn't work. And the most offensive thing here is not the character doesn't work, is that it's boring. You are making a fantasy epic show and it's boring. So on top of being boring and the fact that you are ruining an already established character when you could have used anything, and so few people are complaining about the whole the race thing. That's such a benign argument. Everyone is complaining about Galadriel. Sorry, damn it,
Galadriel.
I can't say her name, and the fact that it's boring. And there's a percentage of people that are complaining. A small percentage of people that are complaining also about the different races, but also on that same note. Like, that's also a valid complaint. And it's not because you're a racist, because, like, hey, can you explain that, please? I mean, I'll get behind anything if it's a good story. But if it's a bad story and you're just checking boxes, well, now we have a problem. You know, that, again, they were ready for this. They were ready for this the whole time, which is, like, just pathetic.
It's an old hat now.
Yeah, so I wonder how much Amazon, like, when they saw the final product that they were getting ready to release, we're like, okay, we got to get ahead of this. We got to protect our $1 billion investment. Vader, what do you think of this strategy of attacking the fan base?
It's like the guys have already said, dude. It's old hat now. I think the critics the companies, they know things are going to be said by people that have legitimate criticisms, so they just hide behind these characters. They use them as shields, and they put these actors and these people in these positions in these shows that they know people are going to complain about, and then they use them as shields to call us all racists and bigots and ists and phobes. You know, it's just like this episode. They introduced the Queen of Numenor. What part of the island did she come from? You know what I'm saying? There's something a little off about her, right, guys? Something a little off.
The part where they're all mean.
Yeah, it's like, hey, she looks different. About everybody literally else in the court of the Numenorian palace. I can't quite put my finger on it. What is it? But then if you say it, oh, racist, you're a Klan member. You must have voted for Trump. It's just it's insane. And it's just old hat. I expect it from literally every studio that does this, that they're gonna just use the race card to criticize people like us that are out here with our YouTube channels monetizing their stupidity. And it's really, let them keep on doing it. Every time they do it, we get more subs and followers. So whatever, who cares?
I lost subs last time, so I don't know what you're talking about.
It's just insane. But and I really wish they would just make content that makes sense for the source material that they're using. Quit changing things just to change them. It is what it is, I guess. And the more they do it, the more we're going to point it out, and they're going to keep on calling us names, and we're going to keep calling them idiots, and it's never going to end. So whatever.
The dumbest thing about it all is that it has nothing to do with race.
Yeah, well,
it's color skin. Like that's what it comes down to, because you're talking about a fantasy universe where other races exist, so they don't care about the race part of it. They just care about the color of skin being represented.
Wait till all this Disney stuff that came out yesterday, right?
Oh,
we're just getting started, guys.
we can't talk about that.
We can't talk about that right now. But my God,
I saw that and I was like, oh, this Saturday is gonna be lit.
Yeah, it's just like, holy crap.
Oh my God.
Holy crap. It's the worst. Yeah, but we'll talk about that some other time.
I joked with my brother. I was like, hey, when they do the Queen of Elizabeth biopic in like a year, $10 says it's going to be a person of color. I got
Queen Latifah is Queen Elizabeth. Yeah, here we go.
There are already memes on Twitter where they've done blackface Elizabeth, and it just says Netflix underneath.
No.
From Netflix. But what's interesting is that the Queen Muriel.
Yeah.
So she's played by a person of color in the show, but Tolkien actually described this character in his works, and he was very clear about what she looked like. She's fair skinned, she has certain color hair, and so the choice to race swap this character was an odd one, especially since Vader pointed out I didn't see anyone else who looked like her in all of Numenor in this episode, at least. Which I thought was kind of funny. So we got a super chat to get to real quick from Mexican Iron Man for $20. Thank you so much, Mexican Iron Man. We really appreciate that. This episode was boring. I'm still waiting for the introduction of the story Tolkien never wrote about the Mexican elf nation. On a serious note, I'm sick of my friends and critics that I respect being called raricists. So yes, we're all sick of that as well, Mexican Iron Man. Thank you so much. Just a reminder to everyone, your super chats are appreciated. We will stop the show to read them. So we really appreciate you guys out there who are supporting the podcast by giving us these wonderful super chats. Okay, so let's get into this episode. So I am going to start with the Galadriel storyline, because she's kind of the main character of this show. Basically, she was rescued at the end of the last episode. She wakes up on a ship that's being helmed by Captain Elendil, who has a big part to play in future events. And basically, she meets Queen Regent Muriel and achieves a frenemy status with her immediately. Goes to the Great Library and discovers that Sauron's sigil is actually a map of the Southlands, which, if anyone was actually paying attention, it was obvious from episode 1.
You just had to turn it around, you know?
Yeah, you just had to turn it sideways.
Yeah.
And so she realizes that Sauron is actually on the continent of Middle Earth, and he's kind of gathering his forces there. She also discovers that her companion Halbrand is king of the Southlands, and she does a lot of very, very slow motion horseback riding in this episode. So, guys, we're going to talk about what you thought about this particular storyline. Matt Vader 74, what did you think of Galadriel's storyline this episode?
The sigil was just sideways.
Yeah.
When she did that, I went, oh, that's it. It's oh my God. That's all she had to do was turn 200 years. She traveled the wastelands of Middle Earth
300 years.
with the upside down, sigil thing. All those guys got to go back home on the other boat, all for a lie, basically, because she couldn't turn the thing sideways and figure it out just like that. I don't know. It's just I'm so flabbergasted when it comes. I don't even know if that's the right word with this show, because I'm such a plebe and a Philistine that I don't know how to talk about this show, because we got all these Elendils and Floraflops and Mela Dingy Dongadardians and all these stupid long words with all the rolling R's everywhere. It just makes me feel dumb. I feel dumb watching these shows, kind of like it felt dumb when I read the books, because I had to read the books like 3 or 4 times just to get through them. So talking about all these insufferable characters is really hard for me, Matthew. But I do appreciate things like the sigil just needed to be turned sideways. That was comical, and it's just I don't know what to say, because the human, the guy that was on the boat with her, he's like the king. Did I pick that up right? Is he like the an heir of Aragorn? Is he like his great grandpa or something?
No.
I don't know how to connect these characters. So
Halbrand is just descended from the king who sided with Morgoth in the previous war.
Okay.
And basically allied the Southland humans with Morgoth.
Oh.
And she's holding a grudge still after like 600 years. So
yeah, it's like
the guy.
Well, humans
live a normal amount of time. So he's like 7 generations removed from this.
I kind of feel like just human beings in general are pretty insufferable in this world. They all kind of suck, because there are such short-lived pieces of crap, and it just feels like we just don't know what to do with our short lives, I guess. So we have to do bad things. So I don't know, whatever.
Well, real quick before we move on, Fluffy Panda for $2. Thank you so much, Fluffy Panda. Don't forget the zzz when recapping ROP. Yes, we're going to fall asleep in the middle of this live stream talking about it, and then we'll wake up and be like, oh man, we got to start the live stream over again. Brian, what surprised me about Galadriel's storyline this episode is that she really sucks at diplomacy, and she's supposed to be thousands of years old. She's supposed to be very wise.
Right.
She's best friends with one of the best diplomats the elves have ever seen. You would think that she would know a little bit about how to deal with humans at this thing, but she comes swinging at the queen right off the bat. What did you think of Galadriel's storyline?
I thought this is what I thought the second she came in there. I thought, oh my God, I've seen this character before. Where have I seen this character before? I figured it out. Star Trek. It's Michael Burnham.
Yeah.
Michael Burnham in 900 years. I've seen this exact character before. The exact same one where you're like, whoa, yeah, calm down, man. Be a little different. No, I've seen this exact character before. And you know what? At least Michael Burnham has an excuse. She's human. She's like 30 years old at most, right? Oh, Galadriel is a lot older, has a lot more experience, and shouldn't be that character. And I can't believe I'm giving Michael Burnham an excuse to be horrible, but I mean, we've seen that character before, and it doesn't work. It didn't work then, doesn't work now, and it especially doesn't work now. Especially. And why is the human who's like 50 years old tops, he's the only one with a clear head in the entire room? I mean, doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, the Halbrand's a little bit more savvy to reading the room. It seems like he does that a couple times this episode.
A couple times, yeah. He's a good character.
Yeah, we'll talk more about him in a minute because he kind of has his own storyline. Sean, what did you think of the Galadriel episode, and what can you tell us about the super slow motion of horse riding in it?
Well, I think the biggest problem with this version of the character is, as mentioned before, she's supposedly very old, comes from a species that has extremely, like unending life. So you'd think that there'd be a refinement in their thinking, and she seems extremely impulsive still. She's like, okay, I'm just going to jump out of the boat and go straight into the, and just out in the middle of nowhere and just swim and
swim a couple thousand miles.
I mean, it really, because we have seen that, elves exerted. So it's not like, Supergirl where, they just don't get tired. They do get tired. So, I mean, this is an incredibly impulsive move. And also the portrayal, there's no grace in the movements. You ever notice how, like Kate Blanchett playing the same part, there's this grace and style to not just the eloquence of speech, but the movements itself. Everything she did was seemed as though it were, I don't know, just choreographed with a smoothness and a gliding movement and everything. And she just seems kind of like, and if she's this old already, you'd think that refinement would have already showed up, but no, it's just the same old thing. And I think the other problem too that we're seeing is this is, again, what, 1,000 years into her life, and or even more, and the world itself doesn't seem to have changed all that much. I mean, we're still, so it's kind of difficult for us living these finite existences to really relate to how much of a passage of time is going if nothing ever changes. And that's the other, I mean, so it's really awkward to look at and kind of relate this character with this extreme age. And as far as the slow motion is going, yeah, okay, so they've got a camera that can, shoot 400 frames a second or whatever it is, and do all this. But it's supposed to, they're trying to make it look epic, and it isn't epic. The shots themselves, when they're composed, they're not. It seems like they're just like, okay, we need a shot of this, and they just set it up and everything. There's no real experience in the photography of it. It doesn't feel grand. I know they're trying to put all this grand music to it too, right, to make up for it. And I mean, the music would be nice, but I think a lot of it's also misplaced. I mean, it's kind of, it doesn't match what we're seeing, and so I'm just kind of. Overall, it's the portrayal of the character is just not being done right. She's been rewritten. She's been rebranded. She even has a different career than we're used to. It's just it's not working.
Well, so the slow motion horse riding has been the meme factory online is already in full effect, especially with this image of the actress trying to act like she's elated that she gets to ride a horse again, but the wind's blowing in her face. She's squinting. You can tell that smile is very forced. And I've seen a lot of people on Twitter basically saying, like, why would the director choose to make his actress look this terrible in the actual episode? So it is kind of funny seeing all the memes that are coming off of that one super slow motion scene. Odin, what do you think of Galadriel Scourge the Orcs storyline this episode?
Yeah, again, it's very insufferable, and I think that one thing that was really, talking earlier about grace, right? That she seems to be lacking that type of grace. I think it comes down to the fact that modern day Hollywood does not want feminine women. They don't want this aspect. They want to masculinize many of the women because it's about, hey, women can do stuff too, right? I forget which movie it is, but the women can do stuff now. Like that's what they're basically trying to get at. And by creating these more masculine traits within women, it ends up actually working against it, right? So they're trying to make her a strong female, but all they end up doing is making her insufferable. They make her annoying. All right, so they're not only not doing it well, but what they are doing is actually just working against that which they are trying to actually bring about in the first place. So you have that factor, and then I do go back to that slow motion scene on the horse because she's getting a lot of hatred, and there might be some some reasons for that. But I ultimately think that it does come down to whoever greenlit saying, one, we're going to do this, and two, yep, that looks good. Let's stay with that. Nothing bad's going to happen from this whatsoever. And also, it just seems like some of the cinematography moments, especially like that, it's very film school. It's like that'd be something where on a short film in film school, you're like, hey, we want to play around with this slow-mo technology. You don't put that in an actual show during a moment that has no real meaning whatsoever. Like, again, she likes to ride horses. She hasn't ridden a horse in a while. Oh, okay, so why are we supposed to think that this is a big moment?
Can I interject? Can I interject really quick?
Yeah.
They went slow motion because she was riding a horse on a beach. It was the traditional, I'm going to ride a horse and gallop on the beach through the waves. And, all they needed was somebody else going toward her so they could do this thing in the water. Yeah.
Am I the only one who, like, during that entire sequence, the only interesting thing about it, I thought, was when they actually shot the horse's legs. And I said, oh, look at that. It reminds me of one of the first films that was ever made of the guy on the horseback because look, all the hooves are off the ground at the same time. Yeah. That was like going through my mind because I was like, okay, this is so dumb. Wait, actually, that's kind of fun to see that in HD.
Yeah, maybe they should have put the soundtrack to Bolero in it while she's riding. Remember that?
I wonder if the what do you call it? What was that movie that had that iconic song in it? Something of Fire.
Oh, no.
Chariots of
Fire. Yeah.
Chariots of Fire. I wanted the Chariots of Fire theme.
No, I always think of the Griswolds whenever I hear that now. So, because they're running towards Wally World and, Bolero would be a good choice, from 10. You see Bo Derek on the beach. Oh, God, it's cringe.
Is it safe to say that I think most people aren't impressed with super high-end special effects anymore? That we need more in something than just eye candy?
Actually, Maverick is a good example
I'm
of that.
Glad. Yeah. I'm glad of this development because as a teacher of visual effects, you get to use the example of so many films, like up until a few years ago, were trying to use visual effects in lieu of story. Mm-hmm. And now my students are starting to see what I've been saying all this time.
Avatar.
They're starting to get it. Yeah, they are starting to understand. So that's
like visuals have a shelf life, right?
Yeah.
We watch a lot of movies from 80s and 90s on the Salty Nerd podcast, and every single time we do, Vader always comes to the recording session. He's like, "This movie didn't hold up," even though it was at the peak of technology at the time it was released. Like, we just watched Judge Dredd, and there's this flying motorcycle scene through the city, and like at the time that was like 1995. And that was like the height of like CGI, but like it looks terrible. And in 10 years, this show is going to look terrible, just like every other thing, because like technology advances, and that shiny new car smell isn't going to be attached to it, and people are going to be like, okay, what's the substance? Like if you go back and watch The Princess Bride, for instance, right? The special effects in that are not great. But you can watch that movie 1,000 times and love it 1,000 times because the story, the characters, all the elements to make a classic film are still there. Same thing with better examples, Galaxy Quest. Galaxy Quest doesn't have great special effects, but the story and the characters are so fun and engaging that you could watch that movie 1,000 times and never get bored with it.
I use
Wrath of
Star
Khan.
Wars. Yeah,
Wrath of Khan.
Mm,
Great
Wrath of
movie.
Khan.
You can watch Wrath of Khan 1,000 times and love it,
Mhm.
even though the special effects are dated. So visuals only get you so far. It's like
Mhm.
once you see them, you're kind of like, okay, that's the standard by which I expect to see other stuff. So I think Hollywood they try to kind of razzle dazzle people right up front to get their initial money, but if the story is not there, then
Well,
the rewatchability isn't going to be there.
something else on that too is because I also teach my students never to judge a movie upon seeing it in the theater. And the reason is because you're beaten into sensory submission by this
Mhm.
enormous screen and the great sound and everything. Wait until you get it home. And I think one of the problems that people are also being distracted by here is people are watching this at home and if this were a theatrical release, it might get much better response from the public because they're so used to, like, they can't handle the visual input and the spectacle and everything at that scale and be objective. So
Well, the first two episodes were released in the theater,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
and it was still getting well. Yeah, but I mean, how many people have seen it? Most people are watching it on
Yeah.
Amazon. And
Well, I know Gary from Nerdrotics walked out of the theater and he was like, "Yep, that sucked."
yeah. Well, also Gary has the experience, but I'm talking about the average person
Mhm.
going in there. They have no ability to fight off the sensory, input
Yeah.
from the big screen. So, but most people are seeing this streaming. They're seeing it on their home system, which isn't that great. And I think the cracks are showing. So yeah.
Yeah, and what's funny is Odin, you wouldn't have noticed this because you're out of social media, but in the days leading up to the release of this show, a lot of the shilly critics on social media were putting up posts talking about how beautiful the show looked, how elegant it was, how
Mhm.
advanced. Like it was all about the visuals, and I kept tweeting at them. I was like, "Well, yeah, what about the story? What about the story?" It's like, no, it looked really good, but what about the story? And like no one was willing to talk about the story because it was boring as
Yep.
hell.
Yeah.
And that's the standard that they have now set for themselves, and that's why you could always tell that either they have been fed a line or that they have just somehow all come to the same conclusion, right, universally of, oh, well, that wasn't very good, but hey, I have to talk about it positively in some respect if I want to keep my access, so let me talk about the one thing that I guess I could still defend years from now when the show ultimately goes to hell because
Mhm.
people start to
Yeah,
understand that the story's not good.
All right, so I want to get into the next storyline, which is kind of goes hand in hand with Galadriel, which is Halbrand, which is the sailor that she met in the shipwreck. Basically, Halbrand's a human from the Southlands, and other humans kind of look down on the Southlanders because they sided with Morgoth. And when he arrives at Numenor, is that how you pronounce it? Numenor?
Numenor, yeah.
So when he arrives here, this is like the pinnacle of human civilization, and he's very impressed by it, and he doesn't want to leave. Like he's looking at this as like, hey, this is my new home. So he starts kind of like, after he smooths things over with Galadriel and the Queen, he starts kind of like taking in the town. He's like, hey, I like this place, but the Numenorians don't seem to like him because they can smell the Southlanders stink on him. But we see like how much of a kind of like street smart guy he is. He's also a thief, and he knows how to fight. So, but one of the interesting things that we learn about him is that he's actually a king. He's of a royal bloodline of the Southland area that eventually becomes Mordor. And so, I don't know much about this character because I haven't really heard much about him in, Tolkien lore. But he seems like an interesting character to me, at least. Brian, what did you think of Halbrand's storyline?
Yeah, the only interesting character so far. Actually, that's not true. I forgot his name, but the African American elf is interesting.
Arondir.
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 Arondir is interesting. But this character is also probably the only character so far that I've actually enjoyed watching. I liked his dealings with people and sort of building his character up and sort of showing who he is. I thought that they might have revealed too much about him. Like in one episode, we already know that he's like this special guy. You should have built it up slowly over time. Other than that, it's a good character.
Okay, Odin, what did you think of Halbrand?
Yeah, I mean, he definitely has one of the more interesting storylines, but it's also at a point where I just also still don't really care to know much more about him. Like, it gets, again, it's like, okay, I can see the dots are connecting, and there's some things that I find intriguing, but ultimately, like, if he were to get killed off next episode, Game of Thrones style, I would be like, okay, oh wait, that is what it is. And I think it comes down to the performance, the way in which he's being directed. It's just, I don't know, there's just something that's kind of lacking about him. Because the only other character for me who's kind of like connected to a certain extent in this episode is, I think he's the father of Isildur, but whoever that guy is, the guy who's watching over
Elendil.
Yeah, that guy. He's the best actor on the show, I think, so far. Like, there was just something about him where I'm like, this guy has presence. Like, even though his role may not be the biggest right now, he has screen presence. He knows what he's doing. He must be the most seasoned of the actors I've seen.
That character becomes king of humanity at a certain point. So.
Well, then they did a good job casting him. Then I can say that at least, because he has presence. But that's something I feel like the other character is lacking. I don't think he has that same type of presence about him. He doesn't have the same factor that you can go back and look back at, like a Viggo Mortensen. Like, he had that presence. You're like, okay, this guy is something. And when they find, unless you've read the stories, of course, like, oh, now I know why this guy is actually the king, right? It all works. Whereas with this one, you don't really feel it as much, I don't think.
Yeah, I feel like Halbrand is like the king of like the ghetto kingdom. He's like, I'm the king of the South Side Chicago, basically. like coming out of the thing. Although the one scene I really did like in this episode was when Halbrand, like, he spends the whole episode trying to avoid a fight, and then like when it becomes obvious he can't avoid it anymore, he just kicks major ass. Like he was just brutal in that fight. Vader, what did you think of Halbrand's storyline?
Oh, he's just an amazingly well written, put together character. He's incredible. He's incredible. Everybody should fall in love with this guy. Yeah. Stunning and brave. He is he's Aragorn for this show. They've just taken Aragorn and made him a rapscallion and inserted him into this show. That's all he is. He's Strider, except with street smarts instead of wood smarts.
And I think he's going to be Galadriel's love interest too. At a certain point.
Good. That'll make it even more fun.
That doesn't really add up, though, does it?
Stunning and brave.
No, it doesn't. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. She's supposed to be married.
Galadriel, Mr. Galadriel.
Yeah.
I don't make no sense though for her character.
No, well, she needs a little side piece, because she's far away from her husband. She is supposed to be married and have had kids by now, right?
Yeah.
In the actual Lord of the Rings.
Oh God,
in
really?
the Lord,
yeah.
She has a daughter and a husband.
Yeah. But no, this dude, he's just an insert. I feel like they made up. I know they probably didn't make him up. He's probably in the appendices notes somewhere that I've never read, so I don't know anything about it. But he's just Aragorn that they've made a character that we're sort of familiar with from the movies for the normies out there, that somebody we can relate to.
That's why I like him.
Yeah, probably why we all like him, because he is kind of cool. So yeah.
So Brian, what did you think of Halbrand's story? Or I'm sorry, Sean, what did you think of Halbrand's storyline?
Well, I mean, I haven't gotten that far yet. I mean, as far as I mean, I'm trying. I'm really trying. But if he is the Aragorn for this series, first of all, he has to die. They're gonna he must go, no, but
he's not long for this world.
Yes, exactly. I think if that's where they're going with this, though, it also shows that they're not using the real reference material to base their characters on. They're using Peter Jackson's films to center their characters on, like rather than having the actors be familiar with the source material and where they're coming from and their motivations and stuff. It's like, here, just watch this and you're going to be kind of like this guy. And then, they're just saying, all right, now go. If that's where they're going with this, it just shows, again, it illustrates the lack of care that they're putting into this. Again, with Galadriel. I'm not going to be able to unhear that now. But if that's where they're going with all of this, then this is just, it's not going to get any better. I've heard it said a couple of oh, this is the best episode yet and everything. Well, if it takes you 3 episodes to start even getting a little bit invested in only one character, again, I mean, but I see this in a lot of, in a lot of these shows too. Oh, you got to wait until episode 5 before it really starts to cook. It's like, no, you get me in 30 minutes or I'm gone. I'm the Domino's type of, rules. Get me in 30 minutes or I'm free.
I don't think that's reasonable though, because there are some shows that require some setup.
The setup is one thing. I can get involved in the setup. It's not about the setup. What it is it's my investment in time. If there's something that isn't going to grab me in the first 30 minutes, regardless of how old the show is, then what you're doing is you're using extra time that you're being given to just kind of fill things rather than give me some real investment. And I've seen that with a lot of shows, and I just can't get.
You like the original series, right? Star Trek, the original series?
Of course, yeah.
Were you like grabbed in the first episode?
At the time I got into Star Trek, the original series, I was a small child. So yes, I was grabbed right away. It was, I didn't see it first run, not that old, but the thing is that there's a lot of series that will grab me.
What about TNG? You were an adult then, right?
I did, yeah, but I didn't go for TNG until I didn't really start appreciating it until season 3.
Yep, same here.
Yeah, so it was
season
like
1 and 2 were garbage.
And I was already, I did like the final episode of season 1 because I think they did the best with it. But no, it's about, okay, certain shows are able to invest you with a MacGuffin that gets the whole thing moving within 30 minutes.
And I will say, Sean, just to add to that real quick, at the time Star Trek, the original series, and Star Trek The Next Generation aired, people's attention spans were different.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like attention spans have become warped over time. And so like you need to get to the meat of stuff faster. Now that's not to say that you can't take your time building stuff up so that you can pay it off later.
Right.
But you at least need to be interesting. And I think one of the problems with this show is they're trying to do too much all at once. Like if you look at the Lord of the Rings movies, it starts off with the hobbits, and then through the hobbits' journey, we get exposed to other races and storylines and stuff like that. And so it's very focused. With this show, it's like you got 5 different subplots going on, and you're just like, there are too many characters. I'm having a hard time connecting to one of the storylines. If they were going to go the Galadriel route, then they should have just stuck with
her. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and used her as like the a storyline like that moves the story forward.
Right.
So real quick, we have a super chat from Joker Voice for $10. Thank you, sir. House of the Dragon is well paced, actors that command the scene, along with well written dialogue. Everything Rings of Power doesn't have. You don't need to be a Tolkien scholar to understand a bad story. Hashtag keep talking. That's very true. Like it's kind of funny to have the contrast between House of the Dragon and this show, because they're 2 very different shows, even though they're both like fantasy series. And I'm having way more fun watching House of the Dragons than I am watching this stuff. So let's move on to the next storyline, which is kind of intertwined with Galadriel and Halbrand's storyline, which is the storyline of Elendil and Isildur. Now, if you guys remember in the prologue to Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings movies for Fellowship of the Ring, we see the final battle with Sauron, the last alliance of elves and men. And these 2 characters are the ones leading the charge for the realms of men, because Elendil is the king and his son Isildur is the one who cuts the ring off of Sauron's finger and refuses to destroy it. And so we're seeing younger versions of these characters in this show. And it's kind of interesting knowing in Tolkien's lore, like how these guys end up down the road. So Isildur, we see him as kind of like this young kid who's training to be like a sailor. And Elendil is the seafaring captain who basically has his own ship. And he comes to the attention of the queen when he presents Galadriel, who I always thought was kind of funny because like she's walking through all the humans and everyone's like, oh my God, she's an elf. I'm like, she looks just like you. It's like if
Right.
you don't see her ears, like you know, she looks just like you.
She's an elf.
Yeah. So basically, you know, in this storyline, Elendil wants Isildur to become like a sailor like him, and Isildur's like stop telling me what to do, Dad. And then he wants to take like a season off to like find his roots, and we also get to see his sister, who's kind of encouraging him. So Odin, what did you think of Isildur and Elendil's little side story here?
I mean, yeah, the side story was fine. Like, I guess for me, I just got a little confused because I don't have the years, you know, memorized by any means. I'm not a Tolkien expert by any means either. So I think about this and I think, wait, Isildur, like did he exist during this time frame? I'm assuming that he did. I'm assuming that's not one of the problems with the show, the many problems the show has. But I don't know. That was kind of a little confusing for me because I thought, wait, I didn't realize that he would have existed during this age. I guess for me it just didn't. I don't know. There was something off about that. But going back to what I mentioned about his dad earlier, his dad, I think so far has been the best actor out of the bunch, and I think that because of his dad and because of the character playing the dad is such a presence on the screen. He was the one where every time he was on screen, I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to enjoy at least watching what I'm watching because I'm going to be able to appreciate his performance. And I think that it also shows that just how bad the direction is because it takes someone who clearly has, I guess, some seasoned work. I haven't looked into his filmography or if he's done anything else previously, but something tells me that he probably has a lot more experience than many of the other actors that are a part of this project because he just has this presence that none of the other actors and none of the other characters actually have. So I enjoy him a lot. I think that the family dynamic between them it's fine, but I think it's more interesting to me just because of the guy himself.
Mm-hmm.
So what's interesting about these characters is that both Elendil and Isildur descended from a character named Elros, who was the founder of the kingdom of Numenor, and he was also part elf. And they kind of alluded to that in this show. And so, like Elros, because he was part elf, lived longer than most humans. He like reigned over Numenor for like 500 years or something like that. And so, in Tolkien lore, Isildur and Elendil, because they're descended from this half elf Elros, they live longer than most normal humans do. And so like by the time the last alliance comes along, like they've been alive for something like 200 years or something along those lines. And Aragorn is a descendant of Isildur, which is part of his you know, kind of rise to the throne at the Return of the King. So Sean, knowing this background of these characters, do you think it was wise to kind of include such a young version of Isildur in the adaptation?
Well, I don't think that's not really a problem. I think it's what they're doing with the material that's the problem. Younger versions of the characters, the fans usually enjoy that, and I don't think that there's anything inherently wrong with going in that direction. I think because people are genuinely curious, we're going to want to see that. It's just when they start to stray, then it starts to feel like these guys really don't know what they're talking about, because there's been a couple of things that they fundamentally changed the lore. I don't want to get into it too much, but from what I know of the lore, there's certain things that don't line up if you go and read the appendices or Silmarillion. There's just source material just seems to be treated improperly in a lot of this. So I don't think it's a problem, and I don't think there's a problem with the actor, the actor's portrayal of Isildur. I think it works. I guess basically the age of this actor is like what he's in his. Well, he's born in '96, so I mean I guess he's kind of age appropriate. He just looks young,
He also looks a little bit Hispanic, I thought.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, that's not really all that distracting. It's he doesn't have the beard and the grizzled kind of seasoned warrior look yet. But they might go into that. They might season him up a little bit.
Yeah, well, he is supposed to be the younger version of the hero that he's supposed to become.
Yeah.
Matt Vader, What did you think of this storyline with Isildur and Elendil?
Well, now that I know who they are, I'm a little more interested. So basically, what I'm learning is this is an episode. This show is a build up to the prologue that we got at the start of the first movie, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's interesting. That's kind of fascinating to me. But like the chat said, I just want 10 episodes of the prologue. I think that's much more interesting than all this glitter farting around, trying to figure out which sigils go which direction they're supposed to face.
90 degrees.
Yeah, just change the paper. Yeah, I don't know. It's they're okay. I got no problems with these characters. Like Odin said, I think I can't say his name.
The guy. The dude.
The dad. He's cool. He's interesting. He's definitely
Elendil.
Okay, whatever.
Exactly.
He's definitely the most interesting character, I think, of the entire series, to me at least so far. He's got a little bit of a background setup. He's got some history. I like the whole my father and his father. We were friends of the elves, and we lived, 10 miles down the road from all these people who probably want to burn us and kill us all. And he's also a ship captain in the Navy, and I don't know. It's kind of weird, right? That elves haven't been allowed on the island because of reasons for generations, right?
Well, all the Numenorians, they were like, there are black elves. We gotta get rid of these guys.
Yeah, but one of their high-ranking naval officials is a half elf or a quarter elf, but nobody knows. Are his ears a little pointier? Do they got a little thing going on?
Also, technically, all of them are part elf because they're all descendant
of
people, I believe, right? I think that's kind of like what's implied.
Yeah. Well,
they were descendants of the good humans who fought against Morgoth, as opposed to the Southlands that fought for Morgoth.
Southlander.
Yeah.
So I
represent.
I want a flashback.
Southside.
Yeah.
I want a flashback because inside this show, that's a flashback. I want to know why they hate elves on this island way out in the middle of.
Now that's something. Yeah, I agree. There's no backstory to that. They're not setting that up.
White was like, oh, these elves gave us this island because we were good little humans, and and I guess that's it. They resented their elvish overlords and kicked them all out of the island. So, I don't know, whatever. But
they were like abusive landlords or something.
Yeah, no, I think he's cool. I like that character. He's like probably my favorite character of the show so far. At least he's got a little bit of a presence to him, and he's cool. So,
all right. So, Brian, what did you think of the Isildur Elendil storyline here?
I had no idea that those were the characters you're referring. That I didn't know that. So, I mean, now, like just like Vader, now that I know that, I'm slightly more interested. But
I know, right?
Didn't know.
Slightly.
So, I guess you have to be like a hardcore like Tolkien guy to like even sort of semi enjoy the show, because I maybe Shane knew, he didn't inform me. I don't know.
Keeping things from you, man.
He's keeping things from me, dude. Yeah, I didn't know.
I mean, these two characters are super important to what's going to be happening in the future.
I
Makes you wonder why it isn't their show.
Well, now you've ruined it. Now I am not going to worry about those guys at all.
Yeah,
because they have to live.
Yeah,
they have to live.
Fine. Yeah, maybe you shouldn't have told me. Thanks,
Stupid
Matt.
prequels. Now we know the end. Now we know that the son turns into a piece of crap and dies at the bottom of a river after a goblin knocks him off his horse.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
Good job. Thanks, man. Thanks.
Yeah, Elendil, the character that Odin really likes, he ends up becoming the king of humanity and leading the human forces against Sauron. So like that character has a long way to go, which should be interesting.
So he dies
in the battle, And then
Yeah.
that's the battle. Oh
Right.
yeah. Okay.
And
Yeah.
Isildur picks up his broken
Picks up
sword,
the
and
broken sword.
cuts
Okay.
off the fingers
Yeah.
of Sauron.
And he's
Yeah.
literally the guy that's in Mount Doom, and Elrond's going, throw it in,
Throw it in. Yeah.
You see
And he's like,
Isildur, yeah.
no,
Yeah.
it's my ring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it'll be fine.
Ruined.
It'll be fine.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
I'm not watching anymore.
Go away now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go in.
Stupid elf.
Yeah.
So speaking
Yeah.
of stupid elves, let's talk about Don Limanor. I mean, Arondir. So Arondir's storyline was, I think, one of the more entertaining aspects of this episode. Basically, last episode he gets captured by the orcs, and he's brought into basically an orc slave labor camp where they're digging tunnels throughout the Southlands in order for the orcs to move without being exposed to the sun, because the sun is their weakness right now. And basically, he finds out that all of his Watchwarden buddies have been captured off screen and being forced into slave labor. At first, like when I saw these characters, I was like, wait a minute, are those the Watchwarden guys? Like,
Yeah.
when they were supposed to be fucking off back to Elflands? It's like, how did they get captured? You know, like it was very weird. And basically, they do a very poorly planned escape attempt that has a lot of really cool capoeira with kicking chains and stuff involved in it. So I was visually entertained by this scene, but like the more I thought about it, the more I was like, they could have maybe planned this a little bit better. Vader, what did you think of Don Limanor's storyline?
So last episode, right? Don Lemondale is up on the watchtower with his boys, and they're all, everything's good. We're cool. We've been recalled back home. The war is over. We've been at this outpost for 200 years for no reason. We're getting recalled. But yet at the exact same time, in that grand vista and valley that their big majestic tower is overlooking that they're talking at, explain this to me. There's orcs and goblins building giant ditches and trenches throughout this realm that they're just covering up with blankets and skins and tarps to block themselves from the sun.
Yeah,
Is that what's going on?
So basically, the Southlands.
What's happening.
How does that make sense? It's all good.
The Southlands
We're going home.
are Mordor.
Yeah,
Okay,
I know
like,
that.
Like that's the land that eventually becomes Mordor, and that's also the area where the corrupted humans that sided with Morgoth are living, and so Sauron's trying to base his power there, and that sigil that Galadriel was obsessed with is basically a map telling all of Sauron's minions where to go.
What my point
Above
is
ground.
is there's an army of goblins building a ditch in the middle of the world so they can go everywhere, but nobody knows what's going on. You know, like, but in the last episode, they had a cow that was squirting black milk, and nobody knew why. What's going on? Oh, what's from that giant ditch and trench of cowskin covered goblins?
See, I didn't even pick that up.
That's floating. That's they're digging through the middle of our land.
Yeah, I didn't know. I had no idea what was going on.
It's fine.
Right?
And wait, why is it underneath the town and overground here? Oh, plot.
Oh,
Don't worry
yeah.
about it.
Oh my God, there's a giant tree. There's a giant. I've lost my mind. It's like,
What the story is doing is basically the goblins and orcs are kidnapping people who can labor in the sun so that they can build roads and pathways that allow them to traverse the land outside of the sun, because before Sauron clouds the sky, they can't just like walk around willy-nilly.
Yeah,
Why not
get
have a
that.
tunnel?
I
Why not
completely
just be in-
understand that.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I'm right with you. I didn't get it. I'm getting tired just thinking about this show.
Like we already have the
we're
Ken
gonna go home. The
tunnel.
war's over. We won. The
I mean,
war's over. They ride by these giant goblin trenches.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you
fine,
think
they're
that there would be like some kind of traveling salesman, a traveling snake oil salesman, something on his donkey running through the Southlands? It's like, hey, that giant ditch full of goblins covered with skins is very strange. I should probably go tell somebody about that. Right?
Ditch full of goblins.
That is good.
It's It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Also, all the green mist and cut down trees kind of makes it obvious where they are at, right?
It's really obvious.
And make sure, coming from the Northwest, I know that every time a logger goes up to a tree with his chainsaw, he puts his hand on it and says, "Bless you, my brother tree, for being here and providing us with the 2x4s that I'm going to make out of your carcass for building my homes." So
I think something. Yeah,
stupid ass. I hate that shit, man. It's just
something that
did the escape attempt with the kicking of the chains and stuff, did that at least feed your eyeballs, Vader?
Oh yeah.
No. It's like,
Maybe ask the question: how did he learn chain
these-
fighting?
These flintstone axes made from goblin bones and rock are going to break this iron chains.
That's something else too. They're trying to make everything look too primitive because it's to remind people, I guess, that we're
evil.
in the second age and it's evil and it's less refined than what we saw in the third age. It's like, stop trying to remind us where we're at.
Yeah.
I mean,
those bone axes are pretty durable.
They're strong. Holy crap, dude.
Either that or the metal's really weak.
yeah.
So, Brian, I want to hear your thoughts on Don Limonor's storyline.
I have
were
nothing
you
better to
entertained at
say
all?
than what Vader just said.
Vader covered it.
I was more entertained by this conversation. No, actually, I did enjoy. Like I said, I sort of enjoyed it. I enjoyed Don Limonor. When he put his hand on the tree, though, I was like, "Great, here we go."
I can fix the scene. As soon as Don Limonor, whatever his name is, takes that first whack at the tree needs to come to life and be a treant and just knock the shit out of him.
An ant. Yeah.
It's like, how dare
head.
you?
I want every whack. I want to hit the tree to go.
Yeah. I mean,
Just have a sound effect over it.
Yeah.
Scream of pain. Oh, and then you could have Don Lemonor like crying with each and every swing.
I feel so bad.
Murdering. Yes.
It'd be funny.
Tree murder.
The orcs just come out and be like, "That tree voted for Trump," and then like all the elves just start tearing it down.
All the elves start attacking the tree. You zoom out and it's a giant red hat.
Red hat on.
It's like a Godswood. It's got the red leaves.
Oh,
Make the Southlands great again. No.
And then we had to deal with the world's most angry Chihuahua. That was just
Oh my god.
unbelievable.
That was supposed to be a warg, right?
Yeah.
What was that, a warg?
Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't that supposed to be a warg?
Yeah. Well, he even
Warg
said,
is.
"Release the warg."
But then when I saw it, I was like,
Warg.
that's not a warg. I was like, what is this?
Well, you know what's funny about this escape attempt? So basically, like they're trying to fight off the orcs to give them enough time to break the chains, and they should have had like a couple people dedicated to just breaking chains while everyone else was like holding off. Like this was the most poorly thought out escape plan I think I've ever seen. Odin, what was your take on Don Limonor's storyline here?
Well, Don Lemonor was doing the flippity doos, so I mean, there was that. He was distracting them with his, fun flipping around, and
Yeah.
I'm just so amazed.
And we all know people like Don Limonor are better at sports than the white guys. So
Clearly.
it's like,
How dare you, sir?
And I guess also
they're far more
dare you.
athletic. They're
Are
superior. in
they
every way.
trying to add a storyline, or are they trying to kind of get at with him being also an expert at chain fighting too? Is like, are they trying to say he's been trained before? Like, what's
Oh
the
man,
no.
when he was kicking those chains around and whipping them in people's faces,
know.
that was cool. I
I was
that.
like, hey, that's a skill.
Right now.
How'd you learn that skill, sir? You just is that something that
Oh,
elves can just
God.
do, or is this something else going on? Storytellers, like again,
you
it's
see-
like
Well, he was a trained watch warden. So
up at
yes,
up at the elf camp up in the hills up where the tower and stuff is, they have this really cool American Ninja style obstacle course that they all go through
makes sense.
that has chains and
And there's a chain
pegs
part.
and-
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, yeah.
yeah. I
That
wanna
would
see it.
establish it a bit, yeah. No, but the
They
whole
could-
time
They could
also,
they could just borrow it from the Witcher set and use the same one. So
but also like the whole time I'm like, okay, so all these elves can fight. So like part of me is like they're doing all this complicated stuff like to unchain themselves and everything. It's like why don't they just like all like come together and like go right up next to the people, because it doesn't seem like there's that many orcs like comparatively. Why not just go up to them and throw them into the sun?
Yeah.
Or one of the ideas I thought they were trying to say was not about, hey, we want to see what's on the other side. I thought their idea was, hey, let's get rid of the shade. And so, like, I don't know why they didn't just like spend more time on that than the other stuff. It was weird.
They explained that the plan was to figure out where they were by getting a view topside, and
Even
then
though he did, because he
escaping
was at the tree.
then escaping so that they could warn the other elves of what's going on.
Yeah.
And I found it interesting that basically all the watch wardens that we were introduced to last episode just got killed off like right away. Did we do a super chat there, or was that?
No, we have not done the super chat.
No,
okay.
it's just explaining how he was able to do the chain fighting.
The chain fighting.
All right. So this was a very poorly executed plan, I thought, because like they kept having to stop fighting and then like go back to breaking their chains, and while they were doing that, other non-elf slaves were just getting murdered left and right. So I thought it was kind of funny, but I want to know when did they capture the rest of the wardens, the watch wardens?
Well, you see what they did, Matthew, was they dug this giant ditch covered with hides up to the wall of the elven keep.
Yes.
Okay. They completely snuck up on them. They did not know that they were coming.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were just walking along and they just fell right in.
And then when it got dark,
Where did this ditch come from? This wasn't here before.
it's like full of goblins.
That darn cow skin was covering it.
And they dug a hole underneath the wall. Okay. And then the elves just walked up to it and they go, "Hey, what's this?" And then they just reached up and grabbed them and pulled them down one at a time. And then they sicked out the pack of wild, angry Chihuahua wargs.
Oh God!
And they rounded them all up and put them in the ditch. So
in the first episode where Galadriel jumps off that sword and slashes at the snow troll, why couldn't Don Limnor hold out his axe and the other elves just like jump off of it and clear that ditch?
That's a great question.
That seems like that'd be very easy.
Plot armor.
Sean, what did you think of Don Limnor's storyline?
Well, again, there's whoever's writing this is obviously no military experience or tactical experience, and there's no setup for it. It's a situation where you have a storyline that we're supposed to follow where it's all payoff but no setup, and that's really frustrating, because then these characters are able to do whatever they want to do based on the situation at hand. Like again, it's writing the characters first and then building the world around it, which causes writers to like just bend the world to the will of the character based on necessity, rather than writing the world first, which is what Tolkien did, by the way. He wrote the world first and then put the characters in. That means the characters had to follow rules. They had obstacles they had to avoid and everything. And using this Monty Python-esque building of the trench, when you see, him coming down the hill like this and the guards are looking like that, and he never gets any closer until the last minute. That's kind of what the trench feels like. He used the same tactic, right?
But strictly from a story structure, Sean, like I think that it would have been more interesting, because the way that the episode works now, basically Don Limnor is brought into like the slave labor camp and he sees that his Watchwarden allies have already been captured. I think it would have been more interesting if the show had shown the Watchwarden allies searching for Don Limnor and getting captured and brought to that camp, and he's already in there being forced to like do all this stuff.
Yeah, because
that would have been better. Yeah,
but that's a director's problem. The director has no real life experience in dealing with any type of situation like that. They don't put themselves in the situation and say, how would I deal with this particular event? Rather, let's just pay it off and not worry about the setup. And I think that's, you mentioned something too before, Matthew, about like centering it around one particular character and following the journey through that would have been more effective, because they keep jumping around and things just seem so every time we rejoin a particular character, there's already progress made and we're not privy to it. And I think it's, it's causing me to lose interest, because I'm thinking I can't keep up with it because there's no advocate for the audience. Yeah.
All right. So we got a super chat before we move on from Mexican Iron Man for $10. Thank you, sir. You're being very generous today. I'm dying over here laughing. Thank you, Brother Tree, for these 2x4s. Chop, chop. LOL.
Jesus.
Thank you.
It's like honoring the buffalo before you skin it.
Yeah. Right? Yeah.
But I liked how that one watch warden guy was like, that tree has been here for hundreds of years. He's earned the right to be here. And the orcs are just like, fuck that tree. Bring it down.
I want to see one of those elves in Home Depot, just like.
They'd be terrified. Oh my god! All these trees.
What did you guys think of the orc design with all like the animal skulls over them and stuff like that?
I didn't hate it. It didn't bother me a whole lot. I saw some very large similarities in the three types of goblins and orcs there compared to the movies. So they were very similar except for the bone armor. So
they got the actors who played the orcs and elves or orcs and goblins in the movies to come back for the show.
Oh, really?
So
I didn't know
why
that.
they're similar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're just reprising their orc and goblin roles, I guess. Yeah, like I thought that I always find it weird when orcs talk, because like they're just like like you don't expect them to be intelligent, but in Tolkien lore, they're former elves who were corrupted and turned into orcs. So like I guess it makes sense. The whole thing about being sensitive to sunlight is new. I think orcs eventually overcome that after Sauron is risen to power or something like that. But one of the interesting parts about this storyline is that we hear about Adar, who appears to be the leader of the orcs and goblins, and it's hinted at that this might be Sauron. And I wanted to know, what do you guys think of giving a name to this character, Adar? Because that's what the name of the episode is.
Right. Well, you never see the character.
Well, we see him at the end.
Kind of.
Sort of, I guess.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
you actually see more of him in the trailer for the next episode.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the big bad. He's got to be introduced at some point. So
is he though? I don't know if this is Sauron or not.
I don't know.
Is it a tease? I just want Ent to come out and save the elf in the next episode. That's what I want. I just want an Ent to come up to this ditch and be like, "This ditch shouldn't be here," and then start just throwing goblins in the air.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah,
that would be cool.
And then he can ride the Ent back. And then
why is there a ditch here?
Yeah.
They killed my son.
No one has told me of this ditch.
Yeah,
I was friends with that tree.
He was my friend. Yeah,
where
was my friend?
Where was all the green smoke coming from?
Yeah, I don't know what that was either. Because that's the other thing too. It's like, okay, so they're putting smoke signals into the air to tell people where their ditch is.
I want to
say that's
strong. They were in the background, like
Well, I want to say that was orc poop, and that was just like the fumes coming off all the orc poop.
Where's Mount Doom?
It's not there yet.
It just it rises out of the ground?
So
volcano.
Sauron creates it.
Creates it.
Okay.
Interesting.
That whole land is going to go much darker and
right. So basically, the goblins
can't wait for the CGI on that.
They're terraforming, right? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Okay. The ditches are them terraforming the area. Okay.
Is it also true that we're not going to actually see the rings until next season?
I don't think the rings are part of this.
Well, we got the initial thing with Elrond and the dwarves. So like that whole storyline there is about the smith who creates the rings. Mm-hmm. And so like I believe that Sauron has to basically meet up with that guy and kind of trick him into crafting these rings.
Someone mentioned last night that we might get the like elf rings at the end of this season or something like that. So
Well, the
Who
elf
knows?
rings were actually created separately from the other rings of power, which is why the
Yeah.
elves weren't corrupted.
Hmm.
And there were only 3 of them. We have a super chat from Dennis Wright for $4.99. Are elves vegan or carnivores? Do they pray before eating because they have to murder something to eat? Do they even poop? So many questions.
They're 100% vegans.
Yeah, I do think that they're vegans. I don't think that they kill living things, and they
Well,
only take stuff that the trees offer. if I
Maybe they're
remember correctly.
pescatarians. Do they eat fish? Maybe fish.
But
They might eat
eggs,
fish.
eggs, okay. I don't know.
I don't think they're
Also-
hardcore vegan.
I mean, Galadriel at the beginning, she whatever he gave her in that bowl in the ship, she was all about it. It's like, just give it to me, right there, man. So
Yeah.
Well, she was worried that it was poisoned. At
Yeah, she
first,
heard
but
no
I think-
poison. She's just like,
Yeah. Like, she's like, I just swam like 3,000 miles. I need carbs.
Yeah, how far out were the? I mean, like
just keep
to make a
swimming. Just
decision
keep
like
swimming.
that is yeah, exactly. Just keep.
dude, they got to the secret portal hole for the Elven.
It's like literally swimming from California to China.
to China.
Like
Yeah,
that's
awesome.
the length of that sea right
Yeah.
there.
and what did she think was going to happen? I mean, just happened to be, like run into these people on a wrecked ship. Like, I mean, how lucky is that?
Sean, don't ask questions.
Such a bad idea.
Just consume product.
Don't ask
Wait for
questions.
next product.
Just consume, you cow.
All right, so let's talk about the final storyline here, which is the Harfoots storyline. So in this episode, we discover that the Harfoots are a bunch of assholes who have no problem leaving members of their own clan behind to die in horrible, horrible ways. And they also discover that not Gandalf has become a surrogate member of the Brandyfoot clan, and he's not such a bad guy after all, even though like his magic seems to be based in evil. So I want to know, Brian, what did you think of the Harfoot storyline and how we discovered how terrible these Harfoots actually are?
Yeah, so they're little assholes, aren't they?
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah. I pretty much saw it coming with like the whole like not Gandalf helping his new clanmates. I didn't care for it. Like just like the last time we saw the not hobbits. I didn't really care. I didn't care really at all. And now I realize they're sort of assholes, and now I care even less. So good luck getting me to like the next scene with them. I don't really have any interest in not hobbits.
Not hobbits.
So Vader, there's a big scene in here where they're reading the names of all their clan members that got left behind, and they're kind of making fun of how they died. Where it's like, oh yeah, this one died from bees. You know,
They use the word Egypt.
Yeah. What did you
I don't
think
remember
of
that. I don't remember that scene. I was so checked out at this point. I was like,
Mhm.
it's like when she said they're gonna leave us behind because you hurt your foot, you dick. Why did you hurt your foot? Now we're gonna get left behind by the clan, and I'm like, why would they get left behind? I don't understand.
You guys
Especially
have
when they
such
say,
bad
"We will
clan
wait
members."
for you." Isn't that what their whole thing is? Like, we will wait for you.
Yeah,
Isn't that
I
their
don't-
cheer? It's like,
I
wait a
don't know,
minute.
man.
No, you won't.
Clearly, you
know,
won't.
I don't know what the point of these Harfoots are other than to just
Member
I
berries.
don't know what they're supposed to be for or what they're
They're-
doing.
To have hobbits.
In
without having
Tolkien
hobbits.
lore, they're not even supposed to.
They're
be
not even
around at this
exist,
point.
yeah.
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 It's like
In the
they're really
second
good
age.
at making ghillie suits in camouflage. I guess I don't know. It's just,
Yeah.
it's like here's
Call and response
lady
too.
here's Lady Frodo and Fat Lady Sam and
That's so true.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure we're gonna get Pippin and
Merry and Pippin,
Merry and
yeah.
Pippin pretty soon, and and we got wizards falling out of the sky, and I don't know, man. This whole storyline is just completely useless to me. I was so checked out about 2 seconds into it. It was just, then they just left them. I don't understand. It's like, hey, why don't you get a cow or something to pull your stupid carts? Why, I mean, whatever. It's dumb. Terrible story.
Do you know how
Well,
large a
they-
cow would be in comparison to them, Matt? Come on.
Oh, it
They,
doesn't.
they can't
okay,
hide
get
cows.
a pig or something.
And Wouldn't it be funny if they had a Luke Skywalker moment with the black milk, where they just like milk the black milk and drink it?
Yeah,
Humans won't eat it, but a Harfoot sure will.
They might as well. I mean, did anybody else notice that the Harfoots are Irish?
Yeah, the Idjit line was. I was like, wait, oh, they are Irish. What?
That's
they're
their
Irish?
purpose. That's their purpose, is to besmirch the Irish. I think. Because
the elves are English.
are English, and the Irish are the assholes. So, I think that's probably what they, in addition to like,
So,
hey, remember hobbits?
You know what
So
I was
guys,
really upset about? What I was really upset about this episode is that there was no dwarves. There was no Elrond and no dwarves this episode. So
no bearded women. Yeah.
no.
Real quick, we have someone in backstage who can't believe that we've talked for an hour and 30 minutes about the Rings of Power. So I want to bring in Tom Connors Jr.
Hey.
Speaking of Irish,
Hey, yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, I can't believe you guys are still talking about this show.
Well, you see, Tom, some of us aren't able to like talk about these things the second after they air.
No, I didn't. Here's how I watched. I watched the show. I didn't think it was as bad as y'all because I turned it off after 20 minutes and put in Space Truckers instead.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I'm not watching this. As soon as they had Elrond in there, and I'm like, that ain't Elrond. I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm like, done. No, I didn't watch any of these episodes. I watched about 20 minutes. That was it.
Well,
That's why I didn't really show up right away. Sorry, I didn't want to like sit here and say nothing forever. Like, are you guys gonna ever move on to anything besides this? Or because I did watch all of Cobra Kai.
Well, we still got to get Odin's take on the Harfoot storyline and how big of assholes they are. But also, one of the interesting things about this episode,
Put them to the back of the bus.
in the previously on section at the beginning, I
That's
didn't
what
pick
I
up on
heard.
this when I watched the first two episodes, is that not Gandalf, his magic was responsible for Brandyfoot breaking his foot, and also when he crashed in the crater, the overhead view was the eye of Sauron, with the not Gandalf in the middle as like the pupil. So like there's definitely some like evil kind of connotations to not Gandalf, and the goodness of the Harfoots is going to make him into the kind gray wizard that we all know and love, supposedly. So Odin, I wanted to hear your take on this. What do you think of the Harfoot storyline?
Oh my goodness. Again, the whole thing with them saying, oh, we will wait for you. We will wait for you. All the while talking about how they've left people behind. It's just like, okay, so yeah, they're total tools. That's their main objective, is that they're just meant to be giant tools.
I don't think that they said that they would wait for them. What they said at the beginning, it's kind of funny, like comparing this to Tolkien, who actually thought out the songs and poems that he put in the book. Mm-hmm. At the beginning of this thing, the Harfoots are just walking around, and it's like, when you walk the path,
no one walks
we
alone.
walk with you. Yeah, no one walks alone, and they just like repeat the same words over and over again. And it's like, oh wow, that's some real top-notch songwriting there.
Yeah.
So
because either way, because like I forget what the exact lyrics are, but either way, it's either they're waiting for them or we'll wait for you, and either way, it's like, okay, that's just so they'll wait for you because you left them. Or
the whole thing is that they're part of this great caravan, right? That's part of like their culture. And when they're in the middle of their caravan migration, they do not stop to wait for anyone if they fall behind for some reason, even though like this is a very small, like kind of like tribalistic group of people that you would think like they'd be like, hey, why don't we slow down a bit to like, help these people out? They're like, no, fuck them. Like, we're just going to keep going.
I'm wondering what the message they're trying to send with this show is when it comes to camouflage. Because you got this giant ditch that is so supremely well camouflaged going through the middle of the world, and then you got something to do with these not hobbits and their super camouflaged wagons.
Will their paths? What if the paths cross?
They're gonna cross.
An overhead shot of the ditch full of goblins, and then
but they won't see each other.
They won't see each other. They'll just go vertical lines. They'll just go right past each other.
No, never mind. Yeah.
So the fact that Matt is still talking about that ditch is just so.
It's the stupidest
It's the
thing
best part of
ever.
the show. It's the best part of the show.
because it's so dumb.
Yeah.
A ditch full of goblins with some.
Should have called this the ditch of power, right?
Oh
Best part of the
god,
show.
it really is silly. Makes no sense.
Until
Ditch
they run,
building
until they
and
run into
other
a tree.
silly things.
Until they run into a tree, and then it stops.
Well,
Yeah.
Odin in this episode, basically the whole Hardfoot clan is alerted to not Gandalf's presence, and they're very upset that Nari brought in an outsider into their clan because they're usually like they hide from outsiders. That's like
I think
their
it's
thing.
Nori.
Nori, or whatever.
Right, yeah.
Nori.
But I thought it was interesting that the cat's kind of out of the bag with not Gandalf, and he actually gets more robes where he almost looks more like Radagast at a certain point. So you being the bearded marvel that you are, what did you think of not Gandalf?
Well, that's racist.
Are you trying to
Weirdest.
say I look like? Anyway,
I look just as I intend to.
I also like, he falls from the sky, and I that's something where I was like, okay, again, because I'm not an expert on a lot of the lore, but I remember there's something being about the wizards themselves are very angelic within the universe, and so like having them fall from the sky as that was like, okay, that makes sense. Like that's something that I kind of remember, but then it's also like, oh, he doesn't know how to speak, and so he's saying single words. And so I was like, okay, I guess it's like he's older, but he's also brand new to the world. Okay, I guess I can understand that to a certain extent. And okay, now he's just killed fireflies. That's not very nice. Those poor little fireflies. And so yeah, I mean, his character is very. It's interesting because he's either going to completely be Gandalf or he's going to be something where it's like, oh, complete right turn. Y'all thought it was Gandalf, but it's actually. Who knows? I don't really care. He's something.
I know, right?
He's something.
Well, they're going to set up a bunch of red herrings to make you think all these different people are Sauron, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a new wrinkle that I'm trying to get to the bottom of, that supposedly there was a deal sprung between Warner Brothers and Amazon. So who knows what characters they can bring in here?
Oh no.
Yeah. So
What
Sean,
if it's Nori? Nori is Sauron.
Could be.
It's Norway.
Nori.
That's Wheel of Time levels of plot twist there. Sean, what did you think of the Harfoot storyline?
Well, like I said, I think they're supposed to represent the Irish. I think there's some political shenanigans going on here. It's because it's just so painfully obvious, and and it's just, first of all, I don't think that having a proto Hobbit caravan is in keeping with the Second Age. I mean, I don't think there's any references to this. If there is, I don't remember it. But the other thing too is you guys mentioning like the falling out of the sky plot line, and my memory immediately went to Kevin Smith's Dogma with Chris Rock falling out of the sky, right? And so maybe they stole a little bit of that. I don't know. The Harfoots. Again, I think they keep trying to remind us visually that we're not in the Third Age, that this is the Second Age. So therefore everybody has to be like dirty, covered in mud, and everything. But it doesn't really look like real dirt. It looks like it's been applied professionally by, somebody who's just come out of makeup school. So it looks to, just because it's earlier doesn't have to be, like cave, hobbits. It's I can't get into any of these characters because I'm too distracted by them visually. They again, it's taking me out of the story.
We all also keep falling asleep while we're watching.
Yeah, exactly. It's like this summer from Ambien Studios. It's like,
All right, guys. So I want to wrap up this discussion by pointing out that at the very end of this episode, it looks like Sauron is revealed in the Southlands, although it's not clear if it's Sauron or not because he's called Adar. However, Sauron goes by many names, but this will be the first time that we actually get to see Sauron's face if this is the case. So I want to get your take on the very end of this episode along with final thoughts of this episode. Brian, let's start with you.
I didn't know that was Sauron, so that's cool.
Well, we don't know if it's Sauron or not. But that was
well,
Adar. That was the Adar that all the orcs were referring to.
Oh, I see.
Huh.
So, but it's probably Sauron.
Maybe, we don't know.
Yeah, I didn't care, not that much. I had no interest. Like by the end of that time, I was like, oh God, thank God it's over. I can move on.
Yeah.
It just didn't do anything for me. There was a lot of stuff I was still like trying to figure out how, especially when we go to review it, like I'm trying to write down things and like try to remember certain points that I want to talk about. And the closer, the more problems with the show, the closer you get to the end when you're taking notes, the more behind you are on notes. And so you stop paying attention. And I glossed over that entire part.
Okay.
I didn't know it was important. Sorry.
Do you have any predictions for the next episode?
I'm assuming that must be Sauron, and we're gonna get some sweet M&M action. I'm sure.
Some Slim Shady action.
Yeah.
Odin, what did you think of the reveal at the end of this episode, and your final thoughts on the episode as a whole?
So, as far as the reveal, I didn't care all that much about it. However, I have now looked up the word Adar, and apparently a definition for Adar, the 6th month of the civil year, apparently, according to its lineage. And so that makes me think, because it comes from the Hebrew Adar, 6th month, halfway through the year. I think that this is not Sauron, but we're halfway to Sauron. I think that's what the showrunners are trying to get us at, because I believe that the name Adar is not anywhere in the actual works themselves, so they just made it up. I think they're just trying to be clever.
Interesting.
But they're not.
All right. Any predictions for the next episode, Odin?
It's gonna
for
suck.
the next. Yeah, it's gonna be long and boring, just like the others. And all I could say is, especially because of our conversation today, I just hope we get more time in that ditch.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, the ditch
I'm
of
gonna be
power.
really upset.
The ditch of
Yeah.
power.
We need more time in the ditch.
Sean, how many times do you think you're going to fall asleep during the next episode?
Oh, jeez.
Well, he has to
I mean,
finish
I might-
watching this one first.
Yeah, I got to
I
finish
know, right?
watching this one. I mean, I'll be caught up. Next time I'll make sure that I'm caught up. But really, it's it's a slog when you're waiting for the end to come just so you can take the hammer off of your foot. I mean, that's kind of what it feels like. It's just I can't get invested. And I do have a prediction for the next episode. Nobody's going to be invested. it's my prediction.
Next episode's almost halfway through the season, so stuff better start
Yeah,
happening. Matt Vader 74. What were your final thoughts on this episode, and what did you think of the big cliffhanger ending?
Didn't care about the ending at all. I barely remember it happening. But I'm still feeling really sorry for that tree that they
that tree's name was Jeff.
well, rest in
My name
peace,
is Jeff.
So rest in peace, Jeff.
Name is
Yeah.
Jeff.
No.
That's a
Bless-
T-shirt,
bless you,
Brian. You
Jeff.
need to do.
Bless you.
You need to
My name is
rest
Jeff.
in peace, Jeff, with a picture of a tree on it.
That tree had a name, and it was Jeff.
Jeff.
I need some dwarf goodness. I need some little people next episode with some giant beards and some really cool braids and some like steel like stuff in the beards.
First I thought the way you were saying it's like some steel nips, or I was like,
yeah. And
I want to see a gimp dwarf.
I want some rock smashing. I want some mining. Tom, you're a weirdo.
Tom.
And Jeff was cool.
Rock smashing and barely legal Smeagol.
Jeff had strong roots. He had very strong
Yes.
Strong roots.
roots. Yes. So
God.
yeah, man. The ditch of power ran into Jeff. So
Jeff had strong roots like Miyagi-Do karate.
Yes, exactly.
Tom, is there anything you want to add about the Rings of Power?
No, I'm just glad I haven't subjected myself to this garbage.
So, how do you guys think it's comparing to House of the Dragon?
House of Dragon's a far superior show. Come on.
Yeah, House of Dragon's great.
Yeah.
Jeff
Well,
on me.
I actually look forward to watching that show.
Yeah, we get to review them on Mondays. Like the only thing about Mondays that I like now.
We started a thing. Jeff is real.
He grew on me just like he grew on Earth.
Yes, exactly.
We honor you, Jeff, for your sacrifice, so that we
Yeah.
can build our ditch.
Yes, Jeff.
Oh my God.
The
Jeff,
elf comes.
no.
The elf comes back.
Can't you see you were a magnificent tree?
That's
The
awesome.
elf,
Go on.
the elf-
Love it.
he comes back and he like builds a house in remembrance of Jeff in that location.
Oh my God.
Jeff had a hell of an acting career. He was also in The Giving Tree, but that was his last role. So
I'm afraid
somebody
Jeff's gonna
who's
get
read that knows the
typecast.
ending.
Yeah, Jeff is already
Oh.
typecast, unfortunately.
I'm tired of playing a tree.
Every time, it's a tree.
Yeah,
it's a
it's
tree.
like
it's a tree. You're a happy
Jeff,
tree,
you're-
a sad tree, a bad
You're
tree,
really
a
good
tree.
at playing a tree.
Yeah.
Like we just,
He just hasn't learned to branch out yet. You know.
there's like an Andy Sedaris type actor out there who's doing all the motion capture for Jeff, and he's just like, man, like I'm tired of playing digital trees all the time.
That or he's like the Andy Circus of trees, and he's the
Yeah,
that's
only
what I
guy
mean,
who
Andy
can do
Circus.
it. Like, yeah, he's just like,
the trees.
It's like we need a tree for our volume. Who can we get?
I am the only one who knows how to play the difference between an oak tree and an elm tree. See, most people don't know there's a difference.
There is a
I mean,
difference.
If you fold it and then you fold it again.
And then there's
Yes.
a huge difference if you're playing
Oh my
a
God.
black oak or a white oak.
I
The
legitimately,
accent's different.
we need a salty nerd Jeff
Oh my
T-shirt.
God.
We
Yeah,
gotta make it happen.
absolutely.
It has to
Yeah.
happen.
R.I.P. Jeff. Right.
So we can wear it out, and people will go, "What the?
What the hell?
What is
Hey,
that?"
that's where the tree of Gondor came from.
Yeah.
It's like,
So guys,
right?
out of all the billions of dollars that Amazon spent on this, the biggest thing is going to be Jeff.
He is the
what the fans
geode
remember.
of the Lord of the Rings now.
Yes.
It really is. Yeah. It's like his roots were strong. God damn it.
Yes.
All right. So let's go around, get final thoughts, and where can people find you? Tom Connors, you're late to the party, but we appreciate having you on. So,
Well, like I
tell
said,
people
I didn't
where
want to
they can
waste
find you.
any space considering I hadn't really watched the show. But do yourselves a favor, watch Beavis and Butthead and Cobra Kai instead. Of course, you can find me on Midnight's Edge and all the fun places. So thanks for having me.
All right, Sean, the Crabapple Critic. Any final thoughts, and where can people find you?
I mean, I don't know. It's going to be a slog trying to get through this. I've got other things to binge watch. Interestingly enough, so yeah, I'm now the new program director for the videography and film program at the College of Southern Nevada, and on October 7th at 6:00, we have a free short film showcase, which is the culmination of all of our students' work over the past 2 semesters. So it's free and open to the public. If you're in Vegas, come out to the North Las Vegas campus at 6:00 on the 7th of October, and you can find me there, and you can kick me in the shins if you don't like my review of this. So.
Nice.
Weird thing.
All right. Yeah. Sacrifice the shins like Jeff sacrificed the roots.
Yes, it's the least I can do.
Odin, any final thoughts on this episode, and where can people find more about you now that you're off social media?
Well, it's just, I just can't wait for this show to it's like, I already can't wait for the show to be done, just so that I just to stop having to feel this need to watch it just to be able to talk about it. But, man, but I will say things that I've gotten from today's show, I think are going to make the rest of the episodes much more bearable, because now anytime that ditch comes back, anytime there's a tree, we're gonna think of Jeff, and so I think that's the most important thing of all. You can find me though over at OMB Reviews on YouTube and also on Odyssey as well. And I still have a locals community, so OMB Reviews on locals, and then I still got my Discord server as well. So
Did
thanks for having me
YouTube
on.
shut down your second channel?
I have not shut down the second channel, OMB Report. I just don't have as much time to dedicate to it, but it's still there. There'll be a video one day. Again.
Right on.
What happened to your
All
first
right,
channel?
Oh, no. The first channel is OMB Reviews. I have a second one that's for news and politics, but my first channel has precedence, and I don't even do videos every day for that channel because of family and work and stuff. So
Yeah, I'm here. I got
Yeah.
it. I do the same thing.
Yeah. So, Brian, final thoughts for this episode, and where can people find more about you?
Can't wait till next episode, man. I am really looking forward to it. I feel like we're gonna get some momentum on the ditch.
I really want to know how much progress they make.
Yeah, we're gonna be able to see where that goes, and how many more feet of ditch there has been that has been had. That's gonna be great. And
Any more black milk?
yeah, is the black milk happening? What's up with the ogres and the goblins? Don't forget the goblins, guys.
I wonder if
There's
they're going to run into Jeff's sister Emily.
Emily. All the stinky green orc poop. It's wafting fumes everywhere.
Would you guys leave Jeff alone?
Listen, I'm pretty much watching this show because we do the reviews. I don't think I'd be watching the show if we weren't. No, I know I wouldn't be watching the show if we weren't. There's plenty of stuff I give up on the first episode where I'm like, that was dumb.
Yeah.
But we're gonna keep it going. Is it possible that the show gets better? I think it is. I think there's a possibility of it sort of pulling up out of this tailspin. But it hasn't happened yet. That's for sure.
I hope it gets worse.
So Brian, I wanted to ask you, what are Shane's thoughts on this show?
Shane has been largely disappointed by it. He went a little ham during the live stream at some point about Galadriel. He's a Tolkien head. Like he knows Tolkien. He's one of those guys where he's like, this is the first age and the third age, and he knows all the information. Like, he likes that it's moving the Tolkien universe forward, but he doesn't like that. He doesn't like what they're doing with the characters. That's not working, and it is boring to him.
So he's one of those. Well, actually, this is what happened in the appendices.
The knick-knack and the knick-knack. Yeah.
On page 47 of the appendices of the second.
Yeah. So you guys are reviewing it on the podcast, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, and he got in a fight with a Twitter fight with some. He didn't even know that it was like some actual like executive or whatever. And the guy started like throwing like passages of Tolkien at him. And he was responding with passages of Tolkien. I was like, what is this like? It looks like one of those like preacher fights,
It's like a dance off, but with Tolkien quotes.
Right. Yeah.
It's a dance battle.
Dance battle. It's pretty great. But he is a Tolkien head.
Matt Vader 74. Final thoughts, your predictions for the next episode, and where can people find out?
Oh my god, dude! I like I said, I just need some more dwarves. I want some more dwarf storyline. And Jeff goes. He was done wrong. He did dirty. And so I guess we'll just keep on slogging through this, and I hope it turns into a complete cluster, because those are the kind of shows are way more fun to talk about than shows that are taking themselves way too seriously and are just bad. So, and we I think we know where this show's going. So, I'm just going to keep on making fun of it. And their stupid ditches covered up with every hide and tarp known to man. Where are they killing all these animals that they're
I was wondering
for the tarp?
They're falling into the ditch, obviously.
That takes it's a lot of work to cover this ditch up, man.
They're turning Jeff and all of his friends into hemp.
Oh my
Like, ditch really is a really bad idea, right? Like maybe they were digging a hole instead of a ditch. Wouldn't that make made more sense? The ditch
an actual tunnel would have made more sense.
I know, right? Because they've established that they can dig tunnels.
Well, that's what I thought they were doing, because you had the tunnel underneath the house in the last episode, where the kid who had the weird sword, who had completely forgotten about. I guess we're going to get to him. But they had the tunnel that went up underneath the house, and then the giant goblin berserker got out and did some stuff. But how did the tunnels turn into the ditch?
Well, tunneling is actually a medieval tactic. I mean, it was used.
I know.
And this is just to make it like a ditch. It doesn't. I mean, if the whole purpose is to protect your troops from sunlight, which I presume that's it. Exactly, son of a ditch. It's like then why make it a ditch? Why not just tunnel it? And then you could hide your activities and everything. It's just, again, these people are not tacticians. They've never really had any experience with this. Yeah, they're not thinking it through.
But anyway, I was just saying, you can find me at Matt Vader 74 on the Twitter and all the other places. I'm out there.
Yeah. Just real quick, in terms of the ditch, what they might be doing is laying the foundation for the Dark Tower eventually. That might be what it is, as opposed to like an actual
Don't try to give reason and logic to this.
I don't know.
Do that. Do not do that, Matthew.
We're still so many years away from that. I mean,
No,
somebody would
Matt.
fill it in by
No.
then.
You will not take this away from us. No.
Do not give us logic.
This is the one thing we like about this. The one
That's
thing
we have.
Consume products.
Well, you have Jeff also, so there's that.
Yes.
Jeff.
So I want to thank everyone on the panel for coming out this Saturday. Hopefully we'll have some of you guys back to talk about the next episode or further episodes down the line. Next Saturday, we're going to be talking about episode 4. And eventually, once Andor comes out, we'll probably be talking about that too.
Gosh.
Yeah, I know. Like, we're just glutton.
Gluttons for punishment on the Saturday.
Woo, Andor is going to
I
be
also,
awesome.
It might be good.
Yeah, I also want to remind everyone that every Monday we also do a live stream talking about House of the Dragons from the night before. And we really appreciate you guys tuning in for that as well. Thank you to everyone who gave us super chats today. We really appreciate that. It goes a long way to help not only support the channel, but lets us know that you guys actually like and care about what we're doing. So it's very nice to see people like, throw us some money because they appreciate our stuff. And tune in next week, same bat time, same bat channel. I should say Matt time, Matt channel. But we're going to be diving deeper into the Ditch of Power, along with more Jeffs to come. He just keeps getting resurrected.
Yes.
Jeff! All right, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out today. Really appreciate it. Thank you to our expert panel of nerds. And as always, stay salty, my friends.